Do Protestants know what the New Testament really is? That's what we'll be going over here today on Actus Apostolorum Apologetica. We're going to concentrate on the word Diathe'ke in Greek and its meaning. All right, God bless and Ave Maria. All right, we're going to begin with a little prayer. In nomine Patri et Filii Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tui mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Jesus. Santa Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, et hora nostra. Amen. In nomine Patri et Filii Spiritus Sancti. Amen. All right, here we go. So we're going to be concentrating on this particular spelling of the word Diathe'ke. And in the Bible, this exact spelling shows up on 9 occurrences. And the most important two are Luke 22:20 and 1 Corinthians 11:25. In Luke 22:20, we can see this is when Jesus spoke these words. And he says, in a like manner, the chalice also, after he had sipped, saying, this is the chalice, the New Testament in my blood, which shall be shed for you. So we can see here that it was used at the Last Supper. And in 1 Corinthians 11:25, Paul, when he's correcting the church in Corinth, in chapter 11 particularly, he's talking about the Mass and how they should behave and things that should go on. And when he gets to that point of talking about the purpose of the Mass, he gets to the talking about the Diathe'ke. He is very specific that he uses the same exact spelling that was used in Luke. And, Paul was a very conscientious person, and he was fully aware of this, that, what Jesus said it. So when Luke was written afterwards, I think it's very interesting that that's the exact spelling of the word to correlate it to. And we can look here that, we go to Romans or the two places in Hebrew. Each time they're talking directly about the New Covenant, the New Testament, the Old Testament, the New Testament. But why I say Protestants probably don't understand this is because in the Bibles that they read, it no longer says New Testament. And you can see here that I put in the Dewey Rames and the King James at all of these verses in red, it says Testament. And then in the NIV and NSA, it says covenant, right? So they walk around and they're carrying the Bible and they're like, is it in the New Testament? Is it in the New Testament? I don't really think they fully understand that the New Testament that they're talking about, that the Bible, that the book that they're holding, that the New Testament, that the New Covenant, the New Testament itself is the Mass, the sacrifice at the Mass, what he did at the Last Supper, and how Paul brought that to one of the very first churches in existence in Corinth, and he makes that correlation that this is the same thing, that what you're doing here in Corinth is the same exact thing that Jesus Christ did on the night of the Last Supper. I think it's very intentional, the connection between Luke 22:20 and 1 Corinthians 11:25. So to me, this is really the heart of it, that these exact 9 spellings of this word is very intentional. And when you read through it, you could tell that is the connection that they're trying to make in all 9 of these instances. Now, the 2 in Hebrews 8 are back to back, and then the 3 in Hebrews 9 are in a row. And it references the Old Covenant as well, the Old Testament, right, that they lived under. And this is the New Testament that they live under. And then in Hebrews 10, the same thing. So the connection with those verses and then Luke and First Corinthians is very interesting to me. I think that it really is tying together the what the new covenant is, and that it's not all. It didn't just happen at the Last Supper, but it was being directed by the apostles to the earliest churches to continue it, to live under this New Testament that there is, because there was no Bible, there was no writings of Paul when the churches were founded. The first letter was to the Thessalonians and then to the Corinthians. They were just being written, and at that time they were probably very authoritative, but they weren't part of the Bible. The Bible didn't exist. There was no book. There was scrolls, and it and the structure just was different than what it is now. And I don't think Protestants fully understand it when they grab the the New Testament. The New Testament, and it so often just pops in my mind that they have no idea that the New Testament isn't that book that's in its hand. That book, like the reason it's called the New Testament is because it's around the covenant, Jesus's last will and testament to us, to can do this in memoration of me. And that's really what I want to go over with today. And so here it is, the first epistle of Paul in the Corinthians says, in like manner the chalice, after he had supped, saying that this chalice is the New Testament in my blood. Do this ye as often as you drink it for the commemoration of me, right? So, I think Paul's very intentional here when he's correcting the church and going through it. And when you look into King James, it matches it identical. And the King James, when it first came out in the Douay-Rheims, they were very, and the King James in general to this day, I don't really know much about the New King James, but the wording or the use of the words that they use is very similar to the Douay-Rheims, and the Douay-Rheims is a really true version of the Latin Vulgate, right? I know that the King James was done off of Erasmus's manuscripts, but we got to realize Erasmus died as in the church. He was Catholic. He was a Catholic priest, and the things that he was using was the transcripts that he was using was part of the Catholic Church, and you see a lot of that in the King James, even though it is perverted, and the perversion of the Scripture continues with the Protestants, but you could see that the New Testament was clear. It was something that was done later on after these new American Protestant groups popped up with the NIV and the NSA and the Living Word and different things like that. They really changed it, perverted it to match them and to get away from the true meaning of it. And then that's really what this was about, to kind of go through it and say, do Protestants really know what the New Testament really is? I'm not sure. Most of them carry the book and they have no idea what's really in their hand and what it means and what we should be talking about. The New Testament is the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. The New Testament is performed as an oblation at every Mass for us. God's sacrifice is obviously infinite, and I think Protestants know that. They just don't understand that our part of the sacrifice isn't, and that we do this in commemoration of Jesus. And Paul and Luke were, I think, very intentional on the words that they used to tie this together. And I just wanted to point this out in the video to kind of help with things, that the New Testament is the Mass. The New Testament is the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, and it's our part done in commemoration with Him, and that's the New Testament. So when they say, is it in the New Testament? Do they really know what they're talking about? I think not. Protestants claim to be Bible experts and they know the Bible, and to me, they lack a lot of knowledge of it, and they follow heretics you know. But we're going to go over, this is just to get an introduction. I really wanted to get into this because we're going to go over the problems with textual criticism and how they come up with the Bible and the flaws in textual criticism of the earliest Greek text. Earliest doesn't always mean the best or the most authentic. I think it's flawed. And we'll go over textual criticism in depth and, dig more into how the Bible came into existence. So this is me, Dave, on Actus Apostolorum Apologetica. I hope you enjoyed. Ave Maria. Please like, share, and subscribe. Really helps my channel grow, and I appreciate it. Thank you.